Bliss
Podcast.
Chatting with the Hare Krishnas.
You forgot about that slogan. Hare Krishna. I'm your host, Brahmacharya Rishi Dasa, and I'm here with His Grace, Purja Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, I'm very happy to be with you today.
Very nice. We're all happy to be with the audience. Please let us know also if this intro music is loud enough. We record it in a very janky way.
Yo, Hare Krishna.
Recording it off of the other computer, so let us know how that audio is, so we can save to date. Welcome to this spiritual space, the Bliss Podcast. Hopefully, by the time you hear this podcast, it won't be gone. As my one prayer is that we don't have the podcast removed from the face of the earth, as was the previous podcast, because apparently we talked about some controversial topics, and our good friend Philip, he didn't enjoy. Do you have anything to say about this, Prabhu? This controversial point?
Well, Philip is I don't know who's Philip, but
Philip is the possible YouTube monitor.
right. Well, yeah, we're really now puzzled. What exactly is wrong with the videos? We don't understand because the last time we made it very clear that social distancing and masks and what else? Vaccines are
Vaccines and Bill Gates, they're all wonderful.
they're all wonderful. We submit to them. It's wonderful, and everyone should do this. And we made it very clear, and still our video was removed. So it's very difficult to satisfy Mr. Phil. So if you're hearing this, Phil, whoever you are, please let us know how to satisfy you. All we want is to serve you, nothing else.
I humbly submit to you, dear Phil, please keep our video on the YouTube space. We need this. We need these podcasts to be online so people can become enlightened and whatnot. And anyway, I'll become your humble disciple, Phil, please.
Actually, it's funny that people never really understand what we talk about. They just pick some very side issue, they make it a big deal. These are just side topics that we talk about, and they think that this is our main agenda, which is not. Our main agenda is Krishna, Krishna consciousness, God consciousness. This is what we talk about, and all the topics that we discuss are simply excuses so we can talk about Krishna, nothing else. So it's very unfortunate that people don't take enough time to study our movement, our philosophy, and our podcasts to understand what we actually talk about, and they misunderstand our whole purpose of doing these things. Thank you.
It's a good possibility that also we remove for the Krishna conscious content. I don't exactly know how they sort through these things, if it's a person, if Phil is actually listening himself, personally taking the time, or they put it through some kind of, how do you say, some kind of filter, and we certain trigger words came up in the last podcast. But anyway, I don't know, maybe if it happens again, we're going to have to go to another platform. So I personally, I don't want to do like that, but what can be done?
They used to have these radios, illegal radios.
Oh.
They would have a radio machine, something, and then people could tune in. During communism, they had illegal radios.
No, I never knew.
Yeah, and the government was also chasing them and trying to ban them. So we should look into that.
Yeah. In China, also they have like illegal live streams and stuff that I don't know how much it was now, but I remember at my high school someone was doing one Chinese exchange student, because we had this exchange student program, and he came from China, and the internet there is completely banned. You can't say a lot of things, and actually I know also Krishna Consciousness is also persecuted there. Religious freedom is not freedom exactly. So yeah, they also have this kind of black market live streaming and YouTube sharing and like that. So yeah, it's coming to that. Really, it's becoming a real problem. The censorship.
No, it's not a problem.
It is. Oh, it's not a problem. No, it's not a problem, Phil. Thank you. No, we love. It's good. 5 stars.
We learned that we have to follow the policies. So it's every seemingly negative um, is very positive. So we see everything as positive, and we learn from our mistakes. And we think that Bill Gates especially is a god.
Yes. Bill Gates. Jai. He Jai. Yeah, well, a wise man learns to take gold out of stool. Not that you're stool, Phil. I don't mean to say like that.
Just an analogy.
Cute joke. Anyway, on with the topic of the podcast. Actually, before we get into the podcast, I also just wanted to give a quick update. We haven't done a Bliss news in the past 15 or so podcasts. So here's a little Bliss news. We have now moved into the temple. Yes, by the time, well, we already have moved into the temple, not by the time you've heard this, but when you're hearing this now, the temple will be fully set up. And the Wi Fi will be installed, hopefully, very soon. And then we'll be able to continue our live streams, and you can see the live recordings of these podcasts and like that. So that's going to be quite exciting news. We can connect with our Bliss family through our various social media platforms. You can catch us on the Instagram, on the Facebook, on the YouTube, which you're watching right now, and including our other channel, the Bliss Cinema. And you can also support us on our various platforms: GoFundMe, Patreon, and also PayPal, of course, like that. So I don't know if you have anything else to add to the Bliss news. That's just a little update I thought I'd mention.
Where's the live stream? The classes?
The live streams and classes you can find on our Facebook page, Expand the Bliss. No, sorry, the Bliss live streams. We made that new page nice and shiny. Expand the Bliss, so you can. We have so many varieties. Variety is the mother of enjoyment. We're getting lost in the amount of
We made
variety.
so many websites that we don't even know which they are.
Oh, right, the website. We also have the website, expandthebliss.com. So you can also go there, check it out. We have ebooks also available on our Patreon. So much content is there available for you, nice people. So I'm going to put the links. I actually will put the links in the YouTube video. They're all there. You can see on the previous YouTube videos. Don't worry, I'm not fibbing this time.
I think that's why they removed the video because you didn't put the links.
Yeah, they're on me. They're really on me. They immediately picked up this little subplot that my trader doesn't put the links when they've been listening to the podcast for a long time, and now they're on my case.
Also, we are out of lockdown, which is a very positive happening. No more lockdown in London since December the 2nd. So me and my tray are out in the streets doing book distribution.
Haribo, very fun in the streets right now. We're going all down Oxford Street. It's incredibly busy also for the Christmas time, so yeah, really ecstatic pastimes there.
Of course, the fingers are getting frozen. It's hellish.
Yeah, it's
That
extremely cold.
that is number one problem. Frozen fingers. You have to handle the books, but with the frozen fingers, you kind of clumsy.
We're not waving hello when we stop people so ecstatically just because we're ecstatic. We're waving to warm up our fingers. My God, please don't fall off.
Yeah. Anyway, so people are taking the books, and we have this nice place. This is a wonderful place. It's the tiniest temple. Not so small. Not so small compared to the ISKCON temple in London. It's also kind of tiny, so we probably have half as big.
Yeah.
And we have a nice altar here and a kitchen, and basically it's a garage made into an apartment. And we have some nice Jewish landlord. It's a kind of a Jewish quarter, right?
Yeah.
Edgware. Edgware. This is north of London, and well, yeah, the rent is cheaper here, and we have a small yard where we will start Varnashram
Varnashrama.
system. We'll start here on our little yard here. We're planning to grow some vegetables or something. Immediately we'll take advantage of this piece of land. And yeah, it's a warm place. and we put up a nice picture of Krishna. Some of you might have seen pictures on Facebook. So this is quite positive. We don't have to share kitchen with those who are eating meat. Not that there's nothing wrong with people like that, but come on.
But the meat eating itself, hate the sin, not the sinner, I gotta say.
Yeah, we hate it very much. So that is quite a relief. We feel more peaceful in minds now when we have our own kitchen where everything we can keep nice and clean. There's no hair lying around. Anyway, we also know that the girls they listen to these podcasts. So we say Hare Krishna and we thank very much for their hospitality and their friendship. It was nice, but I think they're satisfied and we're
Yeah.
satisfied now. Yeah, they were very complaining about Maitreya. Maitreya was grabbing their stuff.
Oh, this is very confidential pastimes.
He is the staffachor, Maitreya staffachor. Yeah. So, anything else? Bliss news.
I,
What are we planning now?
yeah,
What's the next step?
yeah, we have some nice big plans coming up. We just well, I don't know. Did you release this proof of you book, or did you not release it yet?
No, I'm waiting until you edit it.
Okay. So the Proof of You is another book that's coming out. If you have had the mercy of reading Proof of the Vedas, it's a very nice book, and also the history of atheism. So this is kind of like a sequel or part of one of the books in this series, and it's going to be a very inspiring read. I'm going to have the fortune of editing it soon, and then after that, it's going to be available on our Patreon. So you can. It's going to be Patreon rewards, yes.
Get on Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon's very cool system. You can just give however much you'd like as a commitment per month, and then you get entitled to cool rewards. And our rewards are very nice ebooks compiled by Bridget Prabhu. And yeah, so I highly recommend that you get on that, and then you can get entitled to this book. Also, we have a musical coming up at some point in the future. That's going to be very nice. Prabhupada's biography. Wow, huge projects, flagship projects, if I do say so myself. Yeah, we're planning out videos, and also coming up, kind of a big development is that our good friend Bhaktanace Prabhu is also going to be coming by the temple in London and wants to be trained up in the Association of the Bliss devotees. So that's very exciting. We're going to have a new member here, a new element, a new spice in the mix. What do you think?
Hopefully, he will not run away out of fear.
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty much all I have to say in the terms of the Bliss news. Maybe we can get onto the topic. We're also now. I'm just looking at the clock and sweating a little bit because we're running out of time before we should probably get going on books. Edgware is, as is suggested in the name of Edgware, it is on the edge of London, so we do have to take a bit of a longer bus now to get into the centre, and so we have to plan accordingly, both there and backwards. So we kind of have to a little bit get going now. So without further ado, as they say in Shakespearean London, hold on. Okay, now, today's podcast is about children in Krishna Consciousness, raising your children in Krishna Consciousness, how to do it, the possible objections to it, and why it is so much beneficial. Why everyone should consider this. If you're a parent, why this is such an important thing to do. So I selected one important shloka from the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is one of the Vedic scriptures that we study. Everything okay?
Just ate this very nice prasadam.
Okay. That's all right. That's a good. Actually, in Turkey, this is a symbol. This is a sign that you appreciated the foods.
China, no?
Well, probably in both. So anyway, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. No, it's very. I'm delighted that you enjoyed, according to the Turkish standard.
He's a very good cook. He's cooking all kinds of delights for Krishna.
Anyway, let's go to what Prahlad Maharaj says. Well, I'm just going to read. Yep, but both they say something similar, but I specifically picked Prahlad Maharaj for this one. Hold on, there's also a Sanskrit. Kaumara Acharya Pragno Dharman Bhagavatani Ha Dulabham Manusham Janma Tarapya Dhurvam Athardham. So this translates as one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood. That's Kaumaram in Sanskrit. To practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere. Yeah, I've also got the Turkish, the Turkish gesture here. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. Wow, what a shloka. So, yeah, this is Srila Prabhupada quotes this shloka quite often when kind of touching on this subject. But it's very interesting that Prahlad Maharaj says from the very beginning of life, the tender age of childhood. Actually, Srila Prabhupada explains that the word or the age Kaumaram, that it represents the age of 5 years, 5 to 7 or something like this. Around 5 years, the age surrounding 5 years old. So quite early on, one should begin practicing devotional life, giving up all other engagements. So yeah, nowadays I was actually while we were living at the last apartment, I was seeing that there were some family that would collect in their car, and they would go off to school in the morning while just after we were chanting japa, and I would see them go off in their car, and I saw this. There's a very young girl. I wouldn't say she was much older than 5, and she had an iPhone there in the car. And I have a much younger sister who's I think almost 7 now, and she also has an iPad and an iPhone and like the
She has been iPhoneized.
yeah, she's been brainwashed. I would say actually, I'd go. It's really a brainwash, and yeah, it's very dangerous also because the iPhone connects you
Can you imagine?
to.
She is right now on her iPhone and she's listening to you. My brother is calling me brainwashed. This is horrible.
Yeah, hopefully it'll wake her up a little bit. Yeah, so it's very unfortunate because the iPhone and whatever technology in general, iPhone, I've Shmoan, so many other devices, but they connect you to the world of Maya very easily, and it's very easy to become influenced by politics, illicit sexual propaganda, propaganda about intoxication, all kinds of cuss words, irreligious things, atheistic propaganda, also scientific nonsense. Mr. Dawkins.
Very, very dangerous
Yeah, Mr.
propagandist.
Dawkins is getting shoved down the kids' throats nowadays. So, yeah, this is giving up all other engagements, not wasting time in so many other nonsense things, simply focusing on devotional service. This is actually the reason that we have been gifted the human form of body. And Prahlad Maharaj also says that later on in the shloka, the human body is most rarely achieved. Right, so we go through so many different forms of life. Everyone can see there are millions of different other forms of life. According to the Vedas, there are 8,400,000 different forms, and the eternal consciousness of an individual person is passing through these different forms according to their different works, according to their karma. And after an evolution of all the lower bodies, animal-like bodies, we eventually come to the human forms, of which there are 400,000. So now if you're listening to this podcast, you might also be a dog, but I don't think you can understand what I'm saying. So if you can understand what I'm saying and you're listening to this podcast, then
You're not a dog.
you're not a dog.
That's the symptom. That's the sign.
So that means that you've been given the rare opportunity to perfect your consciousness, perfect your life, achieve Krishna consciousness or God consciousness. That's actually the reason that you have this higher intelligence. That's the reason that you can understand what I'm saying. You can ask, Maitreya, what kind of nonsense are you speaking? The questions, the questioning propensity, the ability to hear and comprehend is a symptom of the higher intelligence in the human form. And so that this human form is not made for simply animal activities. Like we have obviously a necessity to maintain the body as far as necessary. We have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to also have some sex life, and like that, we have to become educated in the material fields. But it's actually not the only thing that we have to do. We also have to have some higher ideals. Otherwise, we're no better than animals, and but yet we simultaneously see that we are better than animals. So, why has that facility been provided? It's been provided so that at the very beginning of life, we can start perfecting our consciousness and not slip down into material engagements. So, this is just the beginning of the topic at hand. Do you have anything to add to this, Prabhu? Any realizations?
I have nothing to add. You said it very nicely. It's exactly the point. Yeah, that's why we have to question, and we should take responsibility. One thing is that this idea of sex in Vedic society is taken very seriously. Not like in our society, actually, is not. Although people think that we know about sex and we take it, very scientifically, and we are trying to block out all the taboos, and there's homosex and heterosex and this sex and whatever sex. And people have this wrong idea that we have no problem with sex. It's a huge problem. It's a huge problem and a huge taboo.
Huge.
Huge taboo, yeah. So, um, in a Vedic society, sex is not a taboo, but it is considered to be sacred. And everybody understands what the sex is for, is to beget a child um, that can deliver you. You see, so making children is not like cats and dogs, just making children, passing semen and without any consideration. It's a conscious decision, a spiritual decision, and a soul comes to take advantage of that situation, and it is the duty of the parents to assist that soul so it can reach perfection. And um, usually, I mean, the Vedic system is that the boys should be educated not to enter into the household life. The emphasis is given to refrain from sex life instead of encouraging. Is the other way around, discouraging sex life. So then the Grihastha ashram, if one cannot control, why is it discouraged? Because engaging in sex life takes so much time, so much energy away from spiritual practice. And that's a fact. People might argue here and there, this and that, but it's a fact. So if you are not able to control, then you can marry, and then you put the energy into the child, make him a nice devotee. Of course, take care of him properly, materially also. Take care of his eating, sleeping, and shelter, and like that. Take care of this little tiny person, because then the child can become perfect. What you could not accomplish. People have this propensity, right? Someone wants to be a lawyer, but he fails, and then he begets a child. So go, be a lawyer.
Right,
Go
right.
to the university. What I could not accomplish, I will accomplish through you.
Right, right.
So keep that, but use it for Krishna consciousness. Do it in a Krishna consciousness. Okay, you could not reach perfection. You could not be a Brahmacharya, all right? So marry and beget such a child that he be ultra Mahabhagavat Acharya Maharaj. And such a devotee can deliver you, even if you fail in Krishna consciousness, because you have facilitated spiritual advancement for your child. Uh, you become delivered automatically by the virtue of being his parent only.
Yeah, That's a very nice point. I mean, the energy is already being spent by the parents to educate the child, put the child in some kind of education, train them up according to some kind of principles, be a role model of some kind. So, like you say, that propensity and those propensities are already there. And if you just make them Krishna conscious, it gives you and your child eternal benefit. It's very easy, actually, just to change. That's what Prabhupada says, actually. Krishna consciousness is just a change of consciousness only. I mean, it's not like a big deal. You just do things for Krishna instead of doing things for this temporary material body, which will make neither you or your child very satisfied. So yeah, that's thank you for bringing that point up. So yeah, now there's it's not exactly just a whimsical thing to train a child in Krishna consciousness. There's also a system devised by the Vedic scriptures and explained by Srila Prabhupada, and that is called a Gurukul, and it's a school that's specifically designed with the idea of training children up in spiritual life in mind, especially boys, training them up in celibacy, like Prabhu just mentioned, refraining from sex life. So, in the Vedic era, when things were happening according to the scriptures, a boy would be from the very beginning, like Prahlad Maharaj says, he would be put into the house of the spiritual master. He wouldn't live with the parents, he would live with the spiritual master, and he would be trained up in mind control. Not that he would have his mind. Actually, well, he would technically have his mind controlled, and that is and that is good for him. And now we're gonna get some flack. Bro, yeah, I think that the ears of Phil just perked up with
No,
great interest.
he will be taught how to control his
His mind,
mind.
yeah,
Yeah, that's different. That's actually the opposite of mind control.
in one sense, yeah.
We're being mind controlled because we cannot control our mind. If you don't control your mind, someone else will control your mind.
Yes.
So the idea in Gurukul is that the boys are taught how to control their mind, and this can be done through teaching them how to control their senses. If one controls his senses, the senses, eating, what is that? Hearing.
Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending.
No, no, no.
Eat,
Hearing.
hearing, seeing, tasting, touching, and smelling.
Yeah, if he controls these senses, then automatically the mind follows. Automatically, the mind is not controlled because we're not in charge of our senses. The senses are dragging here and there and eating all kinds of nonsense, seeing all kinds of nonsense, whatever, without any discrimination. So then the mind is disturbed. So when the boys are taught how to control their senses, they are able to control their mind, and they become very intelligent, very powerful thinkers. So yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. So the process, or Narada Muni in the seventh canto also says a student should practice completely controlling his senses, like you just said. He should be submissive and should have an attitude of firm friendship for the spiritual master. With a great vow, the Brahmacharya should live at the Gurukula only for the benefit of the Guru. So this is actually the process of controlling the senses. This is how it was done. The Brahmachari would serve the spiritual master with complete submission. So, for example, he would learn to control his tongue by going and collecting, going and begging from the nearby neighboring houses or whatever, and he would ask for some grains of rice or some vegetables from the markets or from the neighbors. And whatever he would get, he would give everything to the spiritual master. So in that way, also he learns to control his greed or whatever propensity he has for acquiring wealth. And then he would cook for the spiritual master, or the spiritual master would cook. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, prasadam would be cooked, and then he would not be allowed to take the prasadam until the spiritual master ate. So in this way, he also is controlling the tongue. So in this way, in other practices also, the brahmachari he becomes submissive, a submissive student of the spiritual master, and that is simultaneously control of the mind and being controlled in that sense, but it is for the benefit. It's not exactly a negative mind control.
Yeah, that at the present moment, Prabhupada says that the students have become become the headache
Right.
for the teachers because they don't respect the teacher. And even if you say things like this, I can imagine some people are already uh, being
Triggered.
grumpy, then grumping about this. They say, "Whoa, this is cruelty to the child. What is submissive to the teacher?" I can already hear these nonsense comments. Um, yeah, yeah, you should respect the guru and serve the guru. This is what is missing. The authority, because the whole world is atheistic. They have removed God, the Father. Uh, they have no respect for the father of the family. They have no respect for the father. They have no respect for the teacher. And they have no respect for anyone. So when we speak like this, then it seems like, strange or something. But no, this is how you learn to respect God by respecting the representatives of God. The teacher is the representative of God because he's teaching the knowledge of God, and the Father is also the representative of God because he's maintaining you. Just like the big Father, God, is maintaining all the living entities, your Father is also maintaining, he's working hard like an ass just so you can eat and sleep. So you should respect him. This is what is missing. And that's why all these boys are simply rascals. All the modern boys, they're all rascals because they have no one to respect, and they're not taught how to respect. And that's why they don't deserve to be respected by their wives, by the women, because they're nonsense. They don't know how to respect the teacher and the father. Then their women also, they don't respect them. And because they don't respect them, then these boys, they find other women. And this goes on,
Wow.
and this creates a social disturbance. So anyway, just wanted to point this out.
Nice. That's you nice to explain the cycle of Vana Sankara. That's very
Cycle of stupidity.
okay. Yeah, that's a very nice point. Yeah, like I remember, there's also a pastime where Prabhupada there's a guest, and he says to Prabhupada that, why are all these students bowing down to you? And Prabhupada says that, or they bow down to me, or you must bow down to someone, or something like this. But you bow down to death. Eventually, you have to bow down to death.
You also bow down.
You also bow down. Thank you.
You bow down to your senses.
Bow down to your senses. Bow down.
Bow down to vagina.
Right. So the bowing down must go on, whether it's to vagina or the senses or to death. But that bowing down is very much unpleasant. So the submissiveness to the spiritual master, it gives you great benedictions. You learn how to become peaceful in the mind. Your mind is not disturbing you, telling you to go and enjoy this, enjoy that. You have a master who actually is training you up with love rather than controlling you with lust, which is that's the senses. So actually, that brings us to our next point. That yeah, this is. I just wanted to quickly touch on the fact that actually, in comparison to the current system of material education, the current school system, this Gurukul is it's wonderful. And I think that any sane person, especially people who are involved in education, if there are any teachers listening to this podcast, they will agree that this is a far better, at least the promised result is far better than what we can see now in the system. Because I have personal experience, and I'm sure you also do, Prabhu, that in the modern schooling system, it's a complete mess. I went to a public school in England.
I wanted to bomb it. I was simply meditating how to throw a bomb in school.
Oh boy.
Yes.
I remember,
horrible.
yeah, it's bad. And I went to school in both the United Kingdom and in the United States, and in both places it was a total rubbish. And I brought up some points. What actually makes the school rubbish? One of the most how do you say, prominent pieces of rubbish is that there's a mixing of the sexes from the Komaram. you know, there's no equivalent of a Prahlad Maharaj from the material world, but I'm sure someone would say that from the very beginning of life they should be mixing the sexes and intoxicating, and that is actually the modern system. It doesn't. I think even in from beginning from the kindergarten, which is for those who are not familiar, kindergarten is referring to like a preschool, so very very young children. Even from that age, they're mixing the sexes. So people might say now, to this point, well, what are you talking about? This is natural. The boys and the girls, they should be allowed to mix. But that is
Who said?
many
Who is that rascal?
Who is
Who said that rubbish? I kick on his face.
with boot? So yeah, it is certainly a rubbish, and even actually it's more of a recent thing because I remember my father, he went to an all boys school in London, and this was commonplace. This was common practice that there would be an all boys school and an all girls school, and they would remain separate. That is common sense because if you put the children in the same space, the natural affection for the opposite sex arises. And then what can your child learn if he's just thinking about the woman or thinking about the boys all day? What can they learn?
We shall call it a little brothel.
It really is. I mean, sorry to say, it might come across a little graphically, but it really is a little brothel. And from the very beginning of life, they are mixing and they're developing the desire not for spiritual emancipation, but for sexual entanglement.
Yeah, sexual promiscuity.
Thank you.
Yes, true.
Yeah,
Little brothel.
little brothel.
Modern school. Little brothel. Slaughterhouse for the soul.
Slaughterhouse for the soul. That's the term that Prabhupada uses. Yeah, it really is because if you can't control your senses, and that's what Narada Muni also was saying in the previous shloka that. Well, oh, maybe it wasn't. Maybe I forgot. Well, okay. But anyway, the word brahmachari. Why a student boy is called a brahmachari or a brahmacharini? Also, that's kind of like a modern term. But to control the urge for sex life is the practice of brahmacharya, and that's very essential. Prabhupada actually says in a quote. Maybe I have the quote here. Let me just one moment. Okay, here we go. This is from the Bhagavad Gita. The vow of brahmacharya is meant to help one completely abstain from sex indulgence in work, words, and mind at all times, under all circumstances, and in all places. No one can perform correct yoga practice through sex indulgence. Brahmacharya is taught, therefore, from childhood, when one has no knowledge of sex life. Children at the age of 5 are sent to the Gurukul, or the place of the spiritual master, and the master trains the young boys in the strict discipline of becoming brahmacharis. Without such practice, no one can make any advancement in any yoga, whether it be dhyana, jnana, or bhakti. So, this is the very interesting point Prabhupada brings up. The children, when they're young, they have no knowledge of sex life. They're innocent. Children, they don't know. At least I remember when I was a child, I didn't know, what sex life or that sex life was such an important thing according to people nowadays. I was just playing. I was having a good time. I had dreams to be whatever, some astronaut or whatever kids are dreaming to be. I had some aspirations or whatever. But as soon as I got contaminated by bad association, I actually remember the day I was told by my rascal school friends about this. I developed a different desire, and then you become a slave to the desire to entangle yourself with the opposite sex. You can't think of even material aspirations. What to think of spiritual aspirations? So this is a very nice point that Prabhupada is bringing up. It should be introduced at childhood because they have no knowledge of sex life. They have a clean slate. They can begin fresh with new energy.
Even there's no desire, if they see some, man and woman hugging or some kissing their children, they laugh.
Yeah,
You
right.
noticed?
Right, yeah,
They laugh. This is silly.
yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, the children, they have this thing called cooties. They think it's gross, like a disease, to get kissed. The cooties. I don't know if you had this when you were a child. Okay, so of course that's not good because the concept of being kissed is there at a very early age. But anyway, it just shows that the innocence is there. So anyway, nowadays they are ruining this brahmacharya, which is essential for advancement in spiritual life, which is the only reason that you should be getting educated anyway. So the whole current system goes against the principle of the human form of life, and therefore, what kind of education is that? That's totally a useless education. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So, yeah, one other thing I wanted to ask you, Prabhu, is that you touched on a point in your Proof of the Vedas book that I remember. I think it was in Proof of the Vedas that you touched on this point that the modern education, it gives you an education, uh, it gives you qualifications for kind of a very narrow field, and if you don't get a job in that field, you basically become a beggar. And I just wonder maybe if you could elaborate on this point because it's a very interesting point that the modern education system, it gives you an education that's practically speaking useless, even materially.
Yeah, that's what Prabhupada says. That the modern civilization, the modern educational system, they teach you to be a dog, a shudra. They just give you specific, like you said, the specific training just for a specific work. And if you don't get a work in that specific field, then you finished. You can't do anything else. Whereas our Krishna conscious education is to give Brahminical education, the knowledge of the absolute truth. So a person who is Brahminically qualified, he can understand all the different types of knowledge. Maybe not in detail, but he understands the essence, how to engage all the energies of human society in the service of Krishna. So it's a little different education and makes the person free. You know, a Brahmana is independent. He can make his living independently from the system. So it's a very bad education because even people who have some Brahminical propensities, intellectual propensities, are basically squared into a Shudra, into a fool who's simply working hard like an ass, like a donk. So the it kind of relates to the previous topic we discussed. The Brahmana is independent. Why? Because he can control his senses. The more you minimize your expenditures, the more independent you become. The more you are letting your senses loose, the more you have to spend and the more you have to work. It's a very simple principle. There's nothing very complicated about it. Minimize your needs, you will increase your independence, your freedom. Maximize your needs, you will become a slave and a hardworking ass. So, yes, unfortunately, like you said, because in school they uh, mix the girls and boys together, they develop the sex desire very early, and this is the number one desire, and then the other desires they come automatically, and people are spending, 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 cheating. The boy, the boy cheats the girl. Oh, I love you very much. Here's this, here's that, and buys all kinds of nonsense. And the girl also, she's buying all kinds of nonsense, nice dresses and this and that. And they're just spending and spending, spending money, 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 money. And for that, they have to work. They have to get on in debt. They have used credit, this, that, and this is modern life. Hellish. It's a hell.
Mm. Wow. Okay. Nice. So we're qualifying kids for hell. Now, someone might argue. I just thought of some objections also because there are two kind of main objections I conceived of. Someone might say that well, this system is not really fair because the children should be allowed to have a choice of what they do, and the modern system, it gives them the choice, it gives them the freedom, and they can also become yogis if they so please, but they can also become businessmen if they like. So you're taking away the free will of the children, and this is wrong. What would you say?
No, we're not taking their freedom to become businessmen and workers, but they should be given a choice, you know, not simply work hard like an ass, but they should be given a choice. You know, they should at least be informed about the possibility of becoming brahmanas, intellectual. Not that, you know, you cut off their free choice and they have to work hard like asses, you know, controlled by sex desire. Uh, you know, that is the great cruelty, not to give freedom to the children. This is the greatest cruelty because the child, if he's forced, he will hate.
Right.
And that is what is going on.
Yeah.
You ask anyone on the street, do you like your job? No, I don't like my job, you know. Nobody likes. But I'm getting paid, so I have to go, right? But nobody likes his job. All twisted, all forced. So we want the children to have a free choice to choose, uh, spiritual life, and they should not be forced into this doggish system.
And perhaps a more controversial objection that some people have is they might go for the straw man slash character assassination argument and say, well, the society that was set up in Krishna consciousness had some serious issues in terms of child abuse in the Gurukuls that they set up. So, how would you prevent this from happening again? And why was that an issue in the first place? I mean, they might just blaspheme the whole idea because of these particular incidences.
Well, that wasn't me.
Sure, plain and simple. Yeah, we're all. I mean, people are individuals. Ultimately, they have their choice, and it doesn't necessarily. It doesn't make the system itself imperfect. It doesn't make the Gurukul system, the Brahmacharya system, training children up in Krishna consciousness. It doesn't make that wrong just because some people misuse their free will. Um, yeah.
It's a typical kind of like a very similar to the racist argument that because a black person stole something, therefore the whole black race are thieves.
Right.
You
That
know,
is.
this is if you say like this, it's racism. It's condemned. You can't say like this, right? It's illegal. So similarly, if someone says, "Oh, because there's been some discrepancy in this Krishna consciousness movement, that's why the devotees and the philosophy and the 5,000-year-old Vedas, everything is wrong." This is simply dogmatic, dull-headed, uh, narrow-minded, judgmental stupidity of fools. People should be kicked on the face for speaking like that immediately. These things have nothing to do. One and the other have nothing to do. They're not connected at all. Someone who's misusing the knowledge and misusing the power, and someone who's using it properly. These are two extremes. The two opposites. How can you compare the two opposites? I don't understand how people are so dull-headed they can't see the difference.
Yeah, it's a great foolishness because at least this system, this what we propose, what we propose for children to do is aiming at something higher. Also, we're not just going for the uh, animalistic goals that people now put their kids into school for. We're aiming at something higher. There may be some flaws here and there in some instances, but it doesn't falsify the idea as a whole. And yeah, it's not that people also become perfect just because they take to Krishna consciousness. Immediately, they become pure souls. They become purified, but it doesn't mean that everyone is free from material desire and imperfection and like this. So yeah.
It reflects the mentality of this material contamination is very deep rooted, and the distrust and disbelief and faithlessness in God is also very deep rooted. So when someone simply attempts, to chant the holy name of the Lord, he's immediately criticized, and if he fails, similarly, he's immediately criticized. Because this gives the justification to people to go on sinning. You see, so whenever there's an acharya, whenever there's a devotee, whenever there's some example, shining example, people are subconsciously thinking how they can smash him, how they can take him down, so they can justify for themselves that, see, the process doesn't work, so I'm okay, I'm all right, go on, I can go on sinning, I can go on having my illicit sex, I can go on taking my ganja. Very nice. You see, so we have to see through all this garbage to uh, the real thing, what is going on. People are just so envious and so condemned and so addicted to sense gratification, and we should ignore their so-called objection and think positive. Okay, there might be some mistakes, some fall down, some misuse of power, some abuse. Naturally, this is the material world. You can't expect miracles here. This is the even Krishna says, "Dukkalaya mashashvatam." This world is temporary and full of miseries. So you think that Krishna is a fool and he's hallucinating that Krishna took some LSD and he's giving this conclusion? No, he has created this world. So don't be surprised that there's going to be a failure. But that doesn't mean that now we're going to give up our endeavor to achieve the lotus feet of Krishna, to achieve perfection. We must go on positively. You must get that determination to go through all the obstacles and aim for the goal, aim for the purity. This is the point. So, yeah.
Very nice. So I think that summarizes this point. That yeah, putting your. I mean, okay. One more thing I'd like to ask you, Prabhu, is what do you? Because there's not really gurukuls in the Western countries, especially now. What do you recommend that people do? Because obviously people should train up their kids in Krishna consciousness, and how should they do it?
First of all, they should read Srila Prabhupada's books and become devotees. Without becoming a devotee, all endeavors will fail. So first, one should, before educating the children, one should become a first-class example. So one should become a devotee, first of all. That's number one. And number two, how it can be arranged, the Gurukul and this and that. Um, we should preach Krishna consciousness. We should preach in a community, preach to your friends, make a temple, go out, chant the holy name of the Lord, chant in the streets, distribute Prabhupada's books, read them, create devotional communities. Then automatically these things can be organized. But we want something, we want to build a roof, and we don't have the foundation. So, how can you go on? So, first of all, one should become a devotee. Chant 16 rounds, get initiated by the spiritual master, make a temple, uh, read Bhagavad Gita daily with your family, chant on your beads like that, offer your food to Krishna. Don't associate with non devotees, don't take non devotional food like that. First of all, the basics A, B, C, D, then E, F, G, N.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, so thank you very much for tuning into this episode of the Bliss podcast. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Give us your queries, your comments, your criticisms, whatever it might be. We're open. And give us also your time. You can access us on our various social medias, like I mentioned in the beginning. And if you feel so inclined, you can also lend us some Lakshmi or some money in the common layman's talk. You can help us, support us on our various platforms to continue making these podcasts, continue making these projects. We also, of course, go on Harinam Sankirtan on the streets, distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. We need all the support we can get. Please help us out.
Hare Krishna.
Jai, Srila Prabhupada. Ki.
Jai.
Wait, I had some outro music also. Oh, wait, no, but you have the outro music because of our setup. Okay. Line up that outro music. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Bill.
Phil. And also Phil also as well as Bill. Please don't take this video off the internet.
We love you, Phil. Hare Krishna.